Hey everybody, it's Larry. It's Weekly Contest 182 uh, on Leetcode. Got about 25 seconds to go. Yeah, wish me good luck as usual because I need it as usual. But yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment if you about whatever you like, question or whatever, and then yeah, that's I'm here. I'm here in Bangkok right now, and we'll see what it goes. 2 seconds. Let's go. And here we go. I think this is actually my worst contest yet, but but it was. I don't know. It is what it is. Find lucky integer in a way. So this one was pretty straightforward. I think the thing that I didn't actually I started coding before I read the finish. I started writing before I knew what I had to return. Um, and then I was like, okay, actually, what do I have to return? And you have to return the largest of them or -1. So that's pretty much it. Um, and I did this in under a minute. So yeah, even ran the test. Take a look at it. Looks okay. Submit. Here we go. Count number of teams. Yeah, this is actually, I mean, also pretty straightforward. This is 3 for loops. So I was just double checking whether I read this right because it was just too simple for me. Probably could have gotten this faster if I had more confidence. Like to be honest, if this was in a weird way, if this was a Yeezy, I would have gotten it faster just because even the same exact problem, just because I wouldn't have uh, wouldn't have second guessed it as much. Um, but yeah, and I keep on rereading it just to see if I missed anything really dumb because well, this problem seemed pretty straightforward otherwise. Uh, and also n choose 3 is 1.3 million or something like that. For n is equal to 200. So I was like, okay, that should be fast enough. I don't think I had to do anything fancy. I think if I need to, I would have done some like caching type thing on the k or something like that. But well, I didn't have to. So um, this submission was a little slow. So I was actually worried about yeah, I was a little bit worried about timing out because this was pending for so long for whatever reason. But it did eventually come through, so it was okay. Uh, I was at this moment I was thinking like, okay, how do I optimize this? And then accepted, good. Design the ground system. So I looked at this. I was like, okay, this is a lot of reading. Let me see if I can maybe get to Q4. I look at Q4. I'm like, okay, this is not an easy problem. So then I went back to Q3. Um, just one of those days, though. I think. Yeah, I mean, I recognize this as DP, but I was like, okay, let's give an honest try to Q3 first. Do I always forget the mod? So this time I tried to like force myself to look at the mod, not just on top, which I forgot before, but just return answer, just to kind of force myself to think about it later on. So in this case, it was moved. Didn't turn out to matter. Yeah, so I went back to Q3. Actually, thought this was pretty straightforward. Actually, if you look at my timing, um, so I actually spent 2 minutes on Q4. So, or like close to 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less. But reading it, I was like, okay, this looks pretty straightforward. I think I was trying to figure out what's the hard part about it. And I just kind of, just start hacking. Again, I wasn't sure if there was anything tricky because this seemed pretty straightforward, which is kind of unfortunate for me because it means that any silly mistake gets magnified. And in this case, it did today. Um, and I just kind of keep track of for each ID, just put in when it got checked in, and also just keep track of the sum and the sum and the count to get the average whenever we need. Yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Just like I really don't know if there's anything tricky about this. I think that made my mistake more heartbreaking for me. I mean, here I'm trying to be very careful, but yeah, a little slow even probably. There we go. The only problem is that I don't know. I think maybe it just became second nature to me because I keep on making mistakes the other way where I um, where I keep on returning doubles instead of ints. So if I had submitted it now, I would have gotten it 8 minutes, even with the 2 minute penalty, and I would have finished in the top about just these three problems would have finished in about like a top 100 or sorry top 150 or so, like somewhere between 100 and 150th. But instead, I got the wrong answer, which is a little sad because, and that's just there's nothing about it. It's just and the unfortunate thing about this particular test case is that because it's so verbose that I was not able to like. I looked at the first beginning. I looked at it a little bit in the end, like the results. I printed it into like a text pad or something, and I didn't see anything obvious. And if you look at a lot of these numbers, they end with zero or they're whole numbers. So it didn't. So my wrong answer is that I use integer division, but then yeah. So this is what I've been doing to debug it. I put because it's too big to look directly. And already right now I spent a minute just copying and pasting it to Notepad and then looking at it up on Notepad. And that's kind of sad. I mean, that's honestly all I'm doing now is just looking at different things and try to like compare them, like eyeballing the output and the expected output one by one. Uh, Still doing it right now, and I guess I should have looked that up in retrospect, but at the time I was just blind to it. Uh, I, I think eventually I noticed the 74.5, and I was like, oh wait, that's not right. But yeah, you'll see this on the fast forward. On the I mean, I'm going to fast forward just because this is painful. So I go do another 6 minutes of this. I write a script to compare, and then I just actually end up copy pasting it onto the Leetcode window, and then you'll see it, and then you'll see how I catch it, and it was really sad. So yeah, stay tuned to or click on the link to get to the next problem. It was really sad for me. Oh. Oh man, really, Larry? Yeah, so I click on submit, and then here we go. Oh, I mean the one test, and then here now I click on submit. Here we go. I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me? I spent 11 minutes on this, on debugging this, and then another 2 minutes just looking at Q4. I was like, I mean, I knew that at this time that I was really slow, and probably gonna be falling behind in rankings, but I was okay. I mean, my mindset was okay. Yeah, as long as you get to, Q4, it'll be okay. But spoiler alert, I did not get the Q4. Um, so my what I thought here was that was always going to be dynamic programming, um, and I think what I'm just thinking through all the cases on which dynamic programming or like how to approach it using dynamic programming, um, or like what is necessary, what right? Because it's not always clear that like what are the dimensions, what are the states. That's what I would say. Yeah. Again, I have my mod there. This is a hard one too. Only got the other one faster. I'm not being dumb. Oh, yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. Yeah. Right now, I'm just still thinking about a problem a bit, on how to think about it. I mean, I don't think I thought about anything else. It was always going to be dynamic programming. I'm just still thinking about the states. I'm thinking about uh, is it easier to how to figure it out. I don't know. I think this problem was long enough that I think my attention was kind of not in a great place. Like I didn't have the focus that you should have, in a sense that I mean I was focused and I was working on a problem, but I had thoughts that came up during the contest that that I didn't get back to, and it bit me later on because I forgot to implement stuff for them, and that I was like, but I'll figure out later. But then I didn't because I don't know. My excuse, if you will, is that I only had 3 hours of sleep, so that's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. but but no, but yeah, I just wasn't able to kind of nail down my assumptions a little bit, and making sure that you know But yeah, right now my idea was just to just figure out the first index that it differs. I frankly I did not need to do this. I just didn't really like I thought about this problem a bit, obviously, but I just didn't. I think I was trying to make too many optimizations prematurely. I think that's what happened here. I could have generalized a little bit in ways that made the implementation a lot easier, which you'll see later on, like way later on after the contest. So yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the indexes. I was like, okay, I need at least the index and I need the people index. And I was like, okay, but then you have to keep track of stuff that you're less than on the greater side. I think here I thought about using the prefix difference thing. Um, so then you just pass in S1 and then you do it for S2 and then you subtract the delta. But then I think like, because it took me so long to work on this problem that later when I got to that point, I forgot about it a little bit because I was a little bit also panicking, not panicking, but like I was like, okay, I have 10 minutes. I really have to get this out, right? Like you have to rush. Like I had no, um, I didn't have time for the patience. And I think, so right now here, um, so here for the purpose of this commentary, I'm just going to tell you things that been, I'm going to things that I did well, essentially. I'm going to probably speed up some of this because um, I don't think it's that interesting. Well, I mean, after a point, um, just because I think I just spent a lot of time debugging and thinking. And I think this is actually a really good problem in a sense that like the test cases don't really tell you what's wrong. I mean, they tell you it's wrong and you're wrong, but it doesn't tell you. See here, like I did the first thing, um, which is something that I actually go back to do later. But um, yeah, here again, as I was saying, premature optimization perhaps. I was trying to figure out like, okay, um, yeah, let's figure out the first place it is different, and then build off that. Um, Not necessary. I mean, I wrote the wrote a version of the answer later, so it was definitely not necessary. But ooh, yeah, I'm already 10 minutes in, so I'm definitely not an easy one, and I recognize this. So I think at this point, my focus is just to get it right. Like I'm not rushing anymore as I might have otherwise. And I also knew that this was hard enough that just like on a meta side, um, if I solve this, I'll be in a good rank. I don't have to like worry about rushing. I mean, it may not be like top 5, but it'll be like good enough. Um, yeah, I was just like, okay, there is an edge case maybe where S1 equals to S2, and then I've checked with evils in it. Yeah. Yeah, now I'm finally ready to write the recursions. It took a long time, so I'm really slow. I really need to mentally be ready for this. I think in general, just not an optimal performance really, because at least this part I feel like I should have gotten a little bit earlier. But but like I said, I was very deliberate and I mean a little bit slow, but also deliberate in knowing that if I get this right, like I don't have to really worry about the time. Roughly speaking. I mean, at the end, I didn't get it though, so I was wrong. I mean, I was right in that was the case, but I didn't get it. Um, yeah, and I started with the base case of okay, well, if it's before the first difference, then we just gotta keep going, right? So yeah, that's just my base case of okay. My idea at the time was okay, maybe I don't need less than. If it matches, then well, with the current index, then we just go equal index plus one. If not, then it should be zero. But I didn't fix that yet because I didn't really think about it that much. And then the obvious base case is if index is equal to n, then we just return one. Um, okay, at the first difference, that's when we have to do something fancy. And this is, to be honest, tactically way much a mistake. I think maybe I should have done a little bit of analysis on the dimensionality first, um, in the sense that you know what what you're gonna see in the next couple of minutes. I try to do what I call a case by case breakdown, um, and sometimes it works. For some different type of problems, that's it makes sense. You need the optimization and you need it. But I think for this one, if I had actually sat down and done the math, and I didn't do this until much later in the contest, in which there was a point of no return, and where I just do it for every character of the alphabet instead of worrying about all these like things. Because what you see, what you're going to see coming up for the next 10 minutes or so of me typing is that I try to break down every case I have. And what happened there is, even though I think at the end I was actually right um, in all my cases, kind of to a certain degree, um, but that was at the very end, so it made my iteration speed really slow. And what I mean by that is that you'll discover that like I have to add a dimension later, and then well, adding a dimension is easy, except for that I structure my code in a way that required like a lot more if statements, and then like you can think about each breakout case as like, well, if you add a Boolean dimension, then it could be true or false, and then you have to do some fancy stuff, and then so forth, right? And there are ways to kind of generalize it in a good way. But I think for me, because I was doing this like on the fly in the contest speed, and I a little bit rusty about it. I was just like, okay, I could just change into these if statements instead of generalizing it in a good way. Maybe if I spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes even to think about what the generalization would be, then it would have made future code changes easier, and then it would have gave me the time to finish the problem. But as is, I did not. You'll see the first part of this soon. And I think one thing in general I need to figure out how to do is better debugging with LRU cache. I think I said this last week as well, or the week before, but I still have to do it because I need a way to print out the stack, the trace, without, because the template that I write dynamic programming usually is different than the way I do it here. So yeah. Maybe I just also need a better template. Maybe that's the other thing. But yeah, so the biggest error here is that I try to be fancy with these counts and then bringing them out. I was like, if this, then that, where if I just did it alphabet by or letter by letter of the alphabet, then you can break them out into cases that are together. Yeah, and then that would allow me to kind of focus on, because I think I spend too much time, and sometimes it's good enough, to be honest. And all these things I write once anyway, right? But in this case, because I was missing one critical point, and because of the way I was coding it, it obscured that until much later in the contest, in which I just didn't have time to finish. And then, but because I was, yeah, I don't know. Good start, I guess. Was really unfortunate. Here, I was just putting in test cases, additional ones. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to put in the n for some reason. And the answer is wrong. So I was like, oh, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I don't take account the upper bounds. Even though that is like your one job. That's like literally in the palm. But yeah, I didn't, and it was sad. So yeah, my recommendation in here would have been just try to figure out what is the easiest way to write this, even if it takes a little bit longer. I keep on putting hacks on top of hacks, and if you kind of fast forward a little bit, but I guess let me finish saying it first. You'll see that I keep on adding dimensions, and I end up adding 2 dimensions to get the in between. So this, which is something that I thought about all the way in the beginning, to be honest. Right? I mean, you saw that a little bit, but Yeah, no good. No bueno. Um, and every time I add a dimension, I had to look through all my if statements to see whether like like I had to think through the logic a little bit, right? Like it's not hard, but it was tricky, and it blocked me from one more insight. I needed one more insight to solve the problem, and I just wasn't even thinking about that far because I did it in a way that just took a lot of time and effort to get right. Um, and also, one of the dimensions was not necessary, as I talked about. Just did a prefix difference caching thing, but
Okay.
noting
Cool.
that, but yeah, feel free to. So I'm gonna put the link below so you can skip forward a little bit. But I'm also gonna skip forward a little bit. Yeah. Thanks. That's what I need to do. see how to debug. Still well. Negative. Makes sense. tree, right? This thing that's not right. Better, but still not right. What is logic? Let's do this thing. Three, 6, right? Guess so. Oh, well. I don't handle the less right here. I guess I implicitly do. Actually, I'll debug this. Let me state. debugging kind of day. Oh, the other one was just done. Maybe 26. That should be 25. That's quite true. This is well, I think. Wait, no, that's not true. Should be from I set right. No, this is off by once, two, but not in the right direction. So this is less than. Oh, okay, I see. It is a tricky one for sure. It is definitely got the sensor got moved up, but feels high. This is 9. Oh, of course you could go to here. Oh, can you? It's consistent, but I don't know if that's right. Hmm. Split. looks like. Right. So I don't know why I changed because I got one higher now. Just noticed that. I guess I added this thing. But anyway. The component seems fine, and I guess I'm doing some silly. It's 584. Oh, I don't start from a Z and a C. I just start from S. I thought about this actually, but then I forgot about it. For some reason, I was just set. Well, that means all these will have even more cases. Yeah, hey everybody again. This is Larry again. I don't know who else we expecting, but anyway, hopefully you came through the link below and not watched the entire thing because it was stressful. But yeah, just to kind of give a quick commentary on this part is that, like, as you can see, um, as I was saying earlier, like I keep on adding dimensions and I keep on adding these things that it block and debugging was hard on LRU cache as well, at least for me. I need to figure out a way to clean that up. But because of that, yeah, I never got that right. And there was actually one, yeah, there's actually another. I mean, I think the ultimate other thing is that because so this is, so I'll leave, make sure you read the description, follow the links, but there'll be an explanation later on where I kind of simplify this a little bit. So yeah, but this is just sad. Just want to leave that as a note. Yeah. We don't have time. Off by one here somewhere, probably. YOLO. Can't believe I didn't test. Ah, well. I mean, I'm close, but something silly somewhere, but probably a better way to put this, but yeah. There's a lot of potential for typos here, so well, there's gonna be a sad ranking. But really should have gotten this one much faster. That was just dumb. Let's see if I could fix this. I know it's post-contest, obviously. Now, this is my worst. I think this may be my worst performance ever. And that doesn't even include the Chinese servers. But it's very close. Am I though? It's always hard to tell these counting ones. I think there's probably a clever way to do it. Or a more clever way to formulate this, because this is just, in terms of code review, this is a mess to kind of code review. and that's why. Yeah. Like the thing is, once you get a wrong answer on this one, and that's why I submit anyway, is that we no way to debug it without really digging into it, and it's not clear to me which one is wrong. Maybe this one. Now that no, that's okay. No, yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe. Don't remember. Hmm. I mean, it was right for a lot of stuff. Is there a mod issue? Because that would be funny if I put in the mod wall. Should be okay though, right? Yeah, no, this is okay. Yeah, all right, let's do a quick code review and then just, we'll see what happens. Um, and then maybe I'll go back to at the end and then you could watch me struggle as long as you like. Um, yeah, I did the first two real quick. I should have gotten this real quick. I think I spent an extra 10 minutes because of um, the decimal average thing, which is kind of silly. But let's kind of look through my code real quick. Okay, this one, yeah, it's just very straightforward. I did in 51 seconds. Basically, you just do what they tell you, right? And you could do it in a number of ways. I did it with collections.counter, but you just put in a hash table. Count number of teams. This was just 3 for loops, so I don't know if I have to describe it. So I'm just gonna go move on. Yeah, this one I was just being dumb. I think I got too used to returning. I just got too used to in Python not doing, or maybe Leetcode and Python in general not dealing with averages, and thus I did the integer division by kind of second nature thing, where I just didn't really think about it, and it took me a long time to debug as a result. And I should have tested that, I think, but um, I just didn't really. It just didn't occur to me that could be wrong because when you're like sometimes in a zone and locked in, or the opposite of that, I guess. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, and this one I'm still working on it. So I mean, I think the clones make sense. Let's see. Any clone review? Is there cover right? No, I mean they kind of. I mean, this is way. I mean, this is the same recurrence that I'd have, I guess. Um, so yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the same recurrence I had, except for they're much smarter, obviously. But they also create a. I mean, they do a pattern so that it's easier, faster, but maybe I don't know how to do it though. Maybe I was wrong. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the same recurrence I have, so I don't feel that bad. I mean, clearly I have to think about the implementation, but at least the algorithm is right, which is a small consolation, perhaps. But yeah, and if I had gotten at least the third problem much faster and without, because let's see. I mean, if I had just gotten the third one in and not be dumb, I still would have been probably top 200, which is still not great, but not. This is gonna be pretty bad, right? Um, but yeah, but I still should have gotten Q4 though, so that's no excuse. Um, I should have tried a big goat. Okay, cool. Hmm. Well, you're not here. There's no way you're watching until the end for this really long stream, but okay. I think, to be honest, I was just lazy. I feel like I knew how to, like, I was able to, well, okay. So, breaking it down, I don't think I could have solved this during the contest. Just time wise, I was stuck on a one track mind where I just didn't think about the case where if you have overlapping where your eval string has overlapping prefixes. So in the extreme case, you can imagine something like your eval is this, something like this, um, but then now you have to match all the prefixes. So like, I don't know. And I thought that you could the exhaustive way to do it is just to start over, but now you have to reuse the failure function. Um, I guess there's no way around it. And you could calculate the failure function in linear time with KMP or something like this. But you could, because n is actually small, you can actually do it. Yeah, you can actually do it. You could just do it naively, right? Like I have 3 lines of code here. Well, okay, no, that's not true. A little bit more to count, but that's pretty much it. Um, and now I could have done it the other way, I guess. It's the same thing, but yeah, overall, not a great contest for me. I think Q4 is okay. I could have done it, or I could have done without it. But my biggest problem with this particular contest was that I just spent 15 minutes of penalty on Q3, and that dropped me from probably from 100th to 800th, right? It is what it is. I'll try to. I mean, and that was like a really silly mistake on just like one. I don't know. I was using in. That's something that I guess in Leetcode and Python and me, the combination of those 3 things, I just didn't haven't needed to use double that much, so I just didn't even think about it. It just became. I typed it out. I rushed it a little bit, probably maybe even mentally, but I just didn't think about it. But otherwise, yeah. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Give props. I'm probably gonna compress the time a little bit, but yeah, thanks. See ya. Tough contest. Yeah, so now I'm about 4 hours in after the contest, and you can see more of the video. I think one of the thing I want to point out is that yeah, I was trying to figure out and learn how to solve these problems even when I don't get it, and I try to figure out by myself. I mean, sure, and I think I was trying to figure out how to do it without just that one insight, even though it was hinted a little bit, but. But yeah, I mean, I think overall I was, you know, like I did okay. I just needed to get Q3 up to get fast. This is a terrible ranking, even not even in the what's that 93 percentile or something like that. But yeah, and I don't think I could have gotten Q4 during the contest. I learned a lot, but I just want to go over the content, well, my problems a little bit, and then kind of see what's up, and maybe do some code reviews. Find lucky integer in an array. Yeah, this was very straightforward. I went straight to the collections that counted, as you guys saw. Yeah, just found it. I mean, I don't know. Just straightforward. Just have to do it. Look it up. Found it. Q2, count number of teams. Also, n. So I've heard that n cubed works, but in this case, it's just. I mean, it is still n cubed, but it's n choose 3, where n is 200. So that's just going to be like 1.3 million or something like that. So that's fast enough. So the answer is just brute force as a result. Yeah, and then just count. I mean, you might have, if you need to, you could get rid of a dimension with like maybe binary search or something like that. But in this case, you do not. Q3. Yeah, I mean, this is also straightforward. It's just keeping track of checking in and then checking out. You add sum and count. My stupidness is just that I used integer division for a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, what I did was I keep track of. You could actually separate these things out if you want to be more clear, or use the name tuple or something like that. But yeah, whenever someone check in, you keep track of what station it's from and the time, and then when it checks out, you look at its previous station and time, and then just do some math, and then put it in a big hash table, and then get average time. Just sum over count. I managed to get that wrong, even though I'm saying how easy it is. So I don't know. And then the big one is there are a couple of ways to do this. This is in the. Hang on a second. This is, I guess, this is my contest code. I'll just put it here because it's easier to read a little bit. Yeah, so this for a long time, I mean, I knew that it was dynamic programming right off the bat. I just didn't know how, in a way, or get all the states correctly. I actually rewrote some of this. I think if you watched the earlier video, early part of this video, I talk about all the mistakes I made with respect to premature optimizations. And this code is actually, end up being pretty tight-ish, like 84 lines of code, and I probably could have made certain things a little bit smaller because I have some duplicate code-ish. Actually solved this in a really different way, but it still had the same, it's about the same. But yeah. But the key, kind of the few things that are key is that I use for loops, here, so that I don't have to kind of break down the case, or like the cases are natural here, so that it breaks them down so that because the thing that I was having is because of the way that I was doing it, doing nested for loops, and here it allows me to take them out of the nestedness, which made for easier to debug. And I end up having two functions. You don't need it, but that's the way I was doing it because I was trying to see if I could do it a little bit differently. But you do need this prefix array where, so the key thing here is noting that if you let's say you're matching a string here, let's say you go here and then it failed because there's no B's anywhere. But that, oh, actually, maybe that's a bad example. But let's say here, right? Let's say you get here. Yeah, so this is not going to match. I mean, it matched earlier, so that's a bad example. But now you have your thing you do with the prefix is just keep track of the last place that happened, right? So, okay, let's just go back one place and so forth. So this is similar to the failure function in KMP. I didn't do it with KMP. I just did it naively. So it's like n squared, but where n is like 500, so it's okay. Or actually even 50, so even more okay because you only use it on the eval. So 50 squared is fine. And then from that, I have two functions. One is very poorly named go, which counts the total number of strings that are between S1 and S2. Keeping track of if it is the first character on a string or the last character on a string, and then just loop through it. Because the way before I did a lot of math to try to figure out like whether if this is greater, but it is also on the first index or something like that, and then I don't know. It was a mess. Yeah, and you could kind of figure out why this is the case because greater and less will only be true in the beginning together anyway, and then if it is true and it matches the first index, then that means you have to kind of start from that character. So that's just basically saying okay, if my current character X, this is the character that I'm adding, is it between S1 index and S2 index? Does it have to be between those two things, right? And that's kind of the recursion here. And looking at other solutions, and we'll go over a couple of them in a little bit in the code review portion. You can actually do better. You only need the less part, it turns out, because so like f of say S2 S1 maybe, it's just you go to f of S2 a or maybe a times n. Maybe that's a better notation. Oops. I can't type right now. Minus f of S1 and maybe plus 1, something like that, right? Like it's off by 1 maybe, and that's a easy thing to check. But that's kind of thing that allows you to get rid of one dimension, and then it would have been a lot easier, slightly easier. I mean, this isn't that bad, but it would have allowed you to get rid of this line and one of these lines, which in theory, if you had to add more complexity, it would be easier. And then I have a go-to, which is also a terrible name, that keeps track of Evo index, and I'm just building the number of strings that have Evo index in them, or Evo in them, of length n, and that's kind of same logic in a lot of places. The base case is a little weird in that, if index is n, then you have to make sure that the Evo index is 1, or at the end, to count that as one complete string. And we have a little bit of a special logic that if we meet it, then we just, actually this should be just go, actually this could be just, now that I see it, I mean, I was a little bit, you could actually do this instead. Yeah, because it's just, yeah. So actually that's actually easy, maybe to understand. But yeah, if this is the Evo index, yeah, and then you just add all the sub strings that that has this prefix, and otherwise you do this thing, and then so this looks very similar to before, except for this port, which is, if you're familiar with KMP, the failure function where you roll back one character to get the previous longest prefix that ends with the current prefix, and then just keep on going back until it matches your current x. And then once you do that, you can match it and then just sum it all together. And then to get the number of strings that are good strings, so this is bad string. So these strings are bad strings, and these are total strings. So the number of good strings is just the number of total strings minus the number of bad strings. And that's how I did it. And there's some mod math to make sure that it fits in mod, but that's the general idea. Yeah. Thanks, friends, for, if you're here for this long, give yourself a pause or props, hit the like button, leave a comment, and I'll give you props. But yeah, I'm gonna. Let's do a little bit of code review since I struggle a lot with this one. And there are a lot of different ways to write Q4, so I want to, look it up. But let's take a look Q1 first. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine there's that many versions. Oh, 46 seconds, beat me. Because I was really fast on the first one, 51 seconds, which, I don't know. At least on the first few pages, I feel like I was pretty fast. But 56, but but now I'm just trying to make myself feel a little bit better. Maybe someone can scrape it and tell me if that was. It seems like I have the second fastest time on the Q1, but that doesn't really matter if your other ones are not as fast. Even Q2 I did pretty fast. I think I just spent some time reading because I wasn't sure that it was that easy. And to some degree, I also felt that way about Q3. So I don't know. Except that I just got it wrong. So on a really stupid mistake. Let's see how other people did it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything really that tricky. Just save and then sum and then and then return the average. What is? Oh yeah, and this is. Oh. Yeah, actually did it the smart way. Okay. The n square way. Yeah, wow, that's okay. I mean, that makes sense. But yeah, and did it pretty quickly, actually. Pretty impressed. This guy. Yep. Yeah, pretty impressed did it in just slightly longer than I did it. I mean, that's what happens when you're good at math. Yeah, and the Q3 are just silly, but Q4 is the fun one. Let's see. Yeah, I mean the recurrence are pretty much the same. It's just and everyone has this KMPE algorithm. We just try to pre-cache a lot of the previous things. That makes sense. For search. I guess calc next is the one that has to vary a function, otherwise the yeah. So yeah, I think the general idea seems to be roughly the same. You still need to build that failure table. But it's something that I was thinking about, but I think I just ran out of time because I did too many silly things. That's what happens when you're a little bit rusty or a lot rusty. But yeah. Oh well. Okay. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think overall this contest it was okay. I learned a lot about the Q4. It was a good problem to practice and just try to think about. It's something that I probably know how to do at another time, just not right now. I need that's the difficulty is a little bit harder than usual. But I think the thing that I'm a little sad about is more that I definitely Q3 I gave away what is it like 11 minutes plus 5 minutes or 16 minutes of penalty. Would I finish in 7 minutes and would I finish like like top 150 at least. But well, gotta do better. Gotta be consistent. That's the thing, right? Anyway, hope to see you next week live from Bangkok. Let me know how it goes. See you.